strawberry custard pot when Catherine Fulvio celebrates Valentine's at 7:30. Now though, we find out why Indian royalty bought a Connemara castle as we join Ballynahinch for Nationwide.
For advice for all the family, get expert care nationwide. Life Pharmacy sponsors Nationwide.
On Nationwide this evening, we are in County Galway to explore Ballynahinch Castle and Estate. We hear how Indian royalty came to own the castle and become the unofficial Maharaja of Connemara. We see the restoration work in the walled garden and meet the man behind the Connemara shooting school to hear of his lifelong passion for teaching the sport. Good evening and welcome to Nationwide. We're coming to you from the west of Ireland in the heart of Connemara, Conde na Gaillimhe. Later on we'll be hearing about the exotic history of Ballynahinch Castle. But first I'm going to meet local man Noel Joyce, who's going to bring me on an historical walk. So the different colours of the grass, it's so different here to where I'm from in County Meath, no?
Yeah, it's multicoloured around here right now. It's a tapestry of colour.
Noel grew up walking these mountains. Now an experienced guide, he enjoys sharing his love and knowledge of the area with others. The lake is stunning. What's the name of the lake?
That's Ballynahinch Lake, yeah.
Oh,
part of the 700-acre Ballynahinch grounds here to our south and west. The northern side of it is the Ballynahinch estate boundary.
The unspoiled landscapes, dramatic mountains, bogs, rivers and lakes make it an ideal place to come and take in the wild beauty and the rich history of the area. It's like a jungle.
It is.
It's a Connemara jungle.
It's opening up a little bit down here now.
Our walk takes us onto the 700-acre Ballynahinch estate, where one of the many woodland and river trails runs along an abandoned railway line. So what time is the train coming?
It'll hardly be along anytime soon. Yeah, this is the remnants of the old railway line that ran between Galway and Clifton. It opened in 1895, closed down in 1935. On the left here you see the wonderful example of the station building itself, Ballynahinch Station, perfectly preserved. Right ahead of us here, the little green cabin here, is a replica of the signal hut in the exact location, an exact replica. It was an unusual railway station in that they had to stagger the platforms, and the railway line, of course, is part of the light railway system that was sent through from Galway to Clifton as when Arthur Balfour passed the Light Railways Act, agreeing that the government would fund the construction of these narrow-gauge railways out into the extreme west coast of Ireland, up and down. The Burridge family gave 24 miles of their estate. They were the landlords here at Ballynahinch at the time, to the railway company. They were trying to open up markets for the local fishermen and farmers, but also in an attempt to entice industry into the area.
But also to make it easier for the people in the big houses to get back to their houses.
Ah, well, that as well. But the Burridge family here were lucky. They were the only big house, I suppose, on this track. All these light railways failed eventually, but this was probably the shortest lived one out here in Connemara. It came through the interior where the least amount of population was. At that time, when it was running, it gave people plenty time to take in the wonderful surrounds, because it moved at about 15 miles an hour. So you had lots of time to take in the scenery on your way from Galway to Clifton.
Running alongside the Ballynahinch estate is the first 6 kilometres of the Connemara Greenway. The route loosely follows the old Galway to Clifton line, and when complete, will be the longest off-road walking and cycling trail in Ireland.
No, this is gorgeous.
It's wonderful, yeah. And when you come around the corner here, the views just open up left and right. And then
that!
Yeah.
Wow.
Ballynahinch Castle Hotel itself.
But it's the mountains that make it.
The background there, the mountains are wonderful. The 12 Bends, special mountain range. And I spend a lot of time up there. I do guided walks for the hotel here, but I also do my own guided walks at weekends. But any walking, any time you can get outside and walk for a bit, it's a very therapeutic thing to do and very good for headspace, as they say.
That and the smell of heather and gorse and the Connemara air.
Yeah. There's plenty of all that out here and lots of wide open space.
Overlooking the Owenmore River, Ballynahinch Castle is one of Ireland's finest luxury hotels. The original house was built in the late 17th century by the Martins, a powerful merchant family and one of the tribes of Galway. Now in its 10th ownership, it has passed through many hands, each adding to its colourful and unique history.
This is the house, and I suppose it reflects the different owners or custodians, I suppose, that had it over the years.
Des Lally worked at the hotel for 35 years and has taken a great interest in its history.
It was originally a two-storey building, Ballynahinch. The third storey was added on then as a nursery wing. Mr. Berridge didn't like to be listening to the bawling of little children. He said he wanted them put up upstairs. And then over the years, different owners put on different extensions.
The next owner added a more majestic touch. The estate had one of the finest fly fisheries in Europe, and it was the salmon that first brought a Maharaja to Ballynahinch Castle in 1924.
He arrived by train. He had his own train carriage, which pulled into Ballynahinch station just down the way there. And the locals used to put firecrackers on the tracks, and there'd be big sparks, and then he'd arrive in with his pet parrot. About an entourage of about 20 people, all Indian, and then they'd reside here for a number of months. And it was at an interesting time in the formation of the Irish Free State. He was very friendly with W.T. Cosgrave and Desmond Fitzgerald and the members of that early government. So it was good for the Irish government to kind of copper fasten their place as a new country, welcoming a new head of state to their country.
Ranji, as he was affectionately known, was one of the finest cricketers of the sport's golden era and the first Indian to play for England. The inventor of the leg glance stroke, he is universally recognised as one of the all-time cricketing greats. And the Indian Championship trophy still bears his name, the Ranji.
Des, what brought Indian dynasty and royalty to Connemara?
It was a number of reasons. The Maharaja, his full title was Maharaja Jam Sahib of Nawanagar, India. Well, he was educated in England and he played cricket for England and he was an Anglophile. But he lost an eye in a shooting accident and that kind of put pay to his shooting. But he was very competitive as a sportsman. So he took up salmon fishing and he was walking down, I think it was the Strand in London with another famous cricketer, C.B. Fry, and they saw for rent salmon fishing west of Ireland. And he walked in, himself and C.B. Fry, and they rented here and came over and went fishing and caught loads of salmon. And he was a very successful salmon fisherman. And then he decided he was going to buy it. And that's how he came here.
My grandparents, my great-grandparents in Connemara at the time, what would they have made of this very, very sort of eccentric-looking man.
A lot of the houses, particularly during the Civil War time, the War of Independence, were burned down. Big houses like these were destroyed all over the country. But when the Ranji came, he gave a sense of stability in that he wasn't an English landlord, so to speak. He was an Indian Maharajah. And so there was a certain acceptance, and he really saved the house from being destroyed. And he was a very astute man in a way, because on his birthday there was a huge celebration here, and he would bring in all the tenants, the local farmers, the tenants, the gillies, the guides, and down the backyard there they'd line up tables, and he would feed a big feast for them, and of course loads of Guinness and porter and whiskey and everything, you know. He was a very, very loyal man to the British king at the time. But he'd stand up at the end of each feast and he'd say, "And now you'll all stand up and I want to raise a glass to the Emperor of India." And everybody stood up and said, "Hey, the Emperor of India." And they didn't know that the Emperor of India was the King of England. But anyway, he got around those little difficulties very well. Actually, he became very well loved in the area.
Ranji's legacy lives on at Ballynahinch. He made many improvements to the castle and estate and built dozens of stone fishing piers which are still in use today. Known locally as the Maharaja of Connemara, he remained owner of the castle until his untimely death in 1933.
This is the library. I suppose you'd call it the literary hub of Ballynahinch. This painting here is of Richard Martin, probably one of the most colourful owners of the house, best known for his founding of the RSPCA, the Royal Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Himself and his wife were interested in the arts and in theatre, and they founded the first theatre in Galway, in Kerwin's Lane. And that connection with the arts and the promotion of theatre has continued throughout the lifetime of Ballynahinch and the Connemara area. This desk here, which belonged to the poet W.B. Yeats, of course Yeats would have a great association with Galway and with the area around Connemara. And that literary patronage has been carried on. Many writers would come to Connemara through the Clifton Arts Festival, which was founded in 1977. As artists came to the festival, they would visit Ballynahinch and they would stay here. The place offered a creative space to these people. And this gave us an idea in the late 1990s to see, could we help to promote the arts? And graciously, many writers allowed us to publish their work in this book, which was a great gift to us. Seamus Heaney wrote about the place of writing. And the place of writing is not four walls and a roof. Place of writing or creating is in the mind. Seamus had written a poem called Ballynahinch Lake, marking one of his visits here, where himself and his wife Mary pulled in at a little place called Snobegg, and Seamus wrote that poem. So we stopped and parked in the spring cleaning light of Connemara on a Sunday morning, as a captivating brightness held and opened, and the utter mountain mirrored in the lake entered us like a wedge knocked sweetly home into core timber.
For health advice to stay well, get expert care nationwide. Life Pharmacy sponsors Nationwide.
All I want is someone to rub my hair like.
I'm not a damsel in distress, like.
This is my time to shine.
It's a really long table.
Brand new First Dates, Thursday at 9:30 on RTÉ.